Howdy y'all, welcome back. It's time for another edition. I can see what I just did there, wow. Another edition of the bestseller, the American bestseller, by every year, according to Publishers Weekly, which again, as I always point out, was the oldest list I could find. We are now up to, this is kind of a red letter day because we started in 1895 and now we are up to the bestseller of 1905. Sort of coming full circle there. Okay, but without further ado, because I will not make you wait any longer, I know you're just on the edge of your seats, the American bestseller of 1905 was The Marriage of William Ashe by Mrs. Humphrey Ward. Written by Mrs. Humphrey Ward, aka Mary Augusta Ward, who is also the author of Lady Rose's Daughter, the bestseller of 1903. And her biography was already done in that video, so for that information, I refer you to that. Published in 1905 by Harper and Brothers, this clocks in at 563 pages. The book is inscribed to DMW, daughter and friend. I inscribed this book March 1905. I always love to get these old books because you find little penciled notes or little things tucked in the pages. There was none of that this time. I was so disappointed. However, as to the book, as with most novels of the day, it was originally published serially by Harper's Bazaar throughout a period in 1904. The illustrations here are all by Albert Sterner, an English-born artist who moved to Chicago and did fairly well for himself, and I highly recommend looking him up. Very interesting. The novel is divided into 5 parts. Each one has its own quote from another source on its title page that relates to the happenings therein. I didn't recognize any of these quotes, and I had to look them up. They are as follows. Part 1, Acquaintance. Just oblige me and touch with your scourge that minks Chloe, but don't hurt her much. It appears that this is from To Chloe, one of the odes of Horace, a Roman poet who may have taken this work from the even more ancient Greek Anacreon. Part 2, 3 years after. The world an ancient murderer is. This is from the poem Self-Condemnation by George Herbert, regarding a world full of dangers and how it's best to keep on your toes. Part 3, Development. Okay, let's give this one a shot. Es bildet ein Talent sich in der Stil, sich ein Charakter in dem Strom der Welt. This is from a poem by Goethe, an aphorism on the subject of character. In English, it says, a talent is formed in silence, himself a character in the stream of the world. Part 4, Storm. Myself, arch traitor to myself, my hollowest friend, my deadliest foe, my clog, whatever road I go. This is from the Christina Rossetti poem, Who Shall Deliver Me? And the short answer to that is, it's up to you, sweet cheeks. Part 5, Requiescat? How do you pronounce that? I'm so sorry, I should look these things up before I make the video. Pluck, pluck cypress, O pale maidens, dusk the hall with you. This comes from another poem, Strew No More Red Roses by Matthew Arnold, which was set to music by Frank Bridge and published in 1917. I'd love to hear that sometime. So yes, the plot of this book is just what the title says. Now, when a title is about the marriage of, in my experience, which is limited, sure, it is typically about the wedding and the events leading thereto. But this is indeed all about the marriage of one of the main characters, William Ashe, a young man getting going in British politics. He is personable and affable, and everyone expects he shall get on very well. The other main character is his new wife, Kitty, who is far more a force of nature. And this is where much of the conflict comes in, as a force of nature is usually, traditionally, at odds with politics. There are many similarities towards other bestseller Lady Rose's Daughter. The main female character has a je ne sais quoi quality to her that draws folks in, especially the men types. They also have a questionable past largely due to their mothers, and come from an upbringing in France to live in England once they have come of age. Both Julie in the first novel and Kitty in this one make moves that have their husbands or would-be husbands and much of society tearing their hair out. However, Ward makes them both highly sympathetic characters, and their husbands, while frustrated with their behavior, are steadfastly in love with them and ready to defend them for the most part. Even their being enraptured by other men is handled sympathetically. Very progressive stuff for the time. However, again, major spoiler alert. Where in the first novel Julie is able to move on from her past and find happiness at the end, in this one there is no happy ending. Kitty and William are separated for a while, during which she gets sick. He finds her again right at the end, but it is too late and she dies. God, just hit me like that. Why don't you, novel? Whew. So, to sum up, although the writing was engaging, I didn't see so many lines in here. Okay. Okay, so, although the writing was engaging, I didn't see so many lines in here that really jumped out at me. Here are just a couple toward the end. Okay, the dean is a family friend and a minister or whatever, and he is trying to convince William of the moral imperative of forgiving his wife. Oh, quick note here, they're all British, but I am not going to attempt accents. I'm sure I would get it all wrong, and honestly, in my head, I was reading it all with American accents. I don't know why. I don't typically do that. Anyway, Ash stood before him, pale and charged with resolution. That obligation has been cancelled by the laws of your own Christian faith, no less than by the ordinary laws of society. I do not so read it, cried the dean with vivacity. Men say so for the hardness of their hearts. Quiet, dog. But the divine pity which transformed men's idea of marriage could never have meant to lay it down that in marriage alone there was to be no forgiveness. You forget your text, said Ash steadily, saving for the cause. His voice failed him. Permissive, was the dean's eager reply. Permissive only. There are cases, I grant you, cases of impenitent wickedness, where the higher law suspended finds no chance to act, where relief from the bond is itself mercy and justice. But the higher law is always there. You know the formula. It was said by them of old time, but I say unto you, and then follows the new law of a new society. And so in marriage, if love has the smallest room to work, if forgiveness can find the narrowest foothold, love and forgiveness are imposed on, demanded of, the Christian, here as everywhere else. Love and forgiveness, not penalty and hate. And next we have Ash himself pondering what all the things he has to ponder, which is a lot. The Christian, no doubt, would say that his married life had failed because God had been absent from it, because there had been in it no consciousness of higher law, of compelling grace. Ash pondered what such things might mean. The Christian, in speculative belief, fails under the challenge of life as often as other men. Surely it depends on something infinitely more primitive and fundamental than Christianity, something out of which Christianity itself springs. But the something, does it really exist? Or am I only cheating myself by fancying it? The pursuit of some eternal good, the identification of the self with it, the dying to live. And is this the real meaning at the heart of Christianity, at the heart of all religion? The everlasting meaning, let science play what havoc it please with outward forms and statements. Had he perhaps doubted the soul? And at the end, when he meets up with his wife again and hears her story, after long silence, she began to talk in a rambling, delirious way of her months in Bosnia. She spoke of the cold, of the high mountain loneliness, of the terrible sights she had seen, till he drew her, shuddering, closer into his arms. And yet there was that in her talk which amazed him, flashes of insight, of profound and passionate experience, which seemed to fashion her anew before his eyes. The hard peasant life, in contact with the soil and natural forces, the elemental facts of birth and motherhood, of daily toil and suffering,
what it means to fight oppressors for freedom and see your dearest, son, lover, wife, betrothed, die horribly amid the clash of arms. Into this cauldron of human fate had Kitty plunged her light soul, and in some ways Ash scarcely knew her again. She recurred often to the story of a youth, handsome and beardless, who had been wounded by a stray Turkish shot in the course of the long climb to the village where she nursed. He had managed to gain the height, and then, killed by the march as much as by the shot, he had sunk down to die on the ground floor of the house where Kitty lived. He was a stranger. No one knew him in the village. No one cared. They had their own griefs. I dressed his wound and gave him water. He thought I was his mother and asked me to kiss him. I kissed him, William, and he smiled once, before the last hemorrhage. If you had seen the cold, dismal room, and his poor face. Ash gathered her to his breast, and after a while she said, with closed eyes, "Oh, what pain there is in the world, William! What pain! That's what I never knew."
Okay, so overall, this was an enjoyable book until that blasted ending. It's another one of those, there were many at the time with lingering descriptions of Venice and a little bit of the Alps. It's like, okay, we get it, writer lady, you have been there. But then again, I can kind of see that back in the day, this was one of the ways for the masses to get information about all the other countries, not being able to go there themselves. Not that we can nowadays, but we have a few more outlets to find out what it's like. So fair, yeah, I guess. So overall, this one didn't knock my socks off, but it was a thoroughly, almost enjoyable read, and I recommend it for that. So do go and check it out. I will put below where you can find it. And that's it for this week. So until next week, watch more movies, read more books, try and get through another week. You can do it. I believe in you. Take care of yourselves and each other, and I'll see you then. Bye now.